Welcome to the American Railroading Podcast, brought to you by the Revolution Rail Group, live from the great state of Texas. Join us as we educate, entertain, and explore the world of American railroading. Here's your host, industry veteran, Don Walsh.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the American Railroading Podcast. I am your host, Don Walsh, President and CEO of the Revolution Rail Group. We are the anchor sponsor for the American Railroading Podcast. We provide consulting and brokering services to the railcar industry. So if you're looking for any kind of consulting, whether it's process flow analysis, market analysis, merger and acquisition consulting, we can help you with that. We can also help you with brokering, so buying, selling, leasing, and subleasing of railcars. You can reach us today at 844-455-3434 or info@therevolutionrailgroup.com. You can also check out our full suite of services on our website at therevolutionrailgroup.com. So fall has arrived, finally, and you can tell because there's a cold front coming through Houston, and our definition of a cold front is it's 85 degrees today. So for us, that is a cold front. But enjoy your pumpkin spice lattes. I know you guys are getting crazy about that. Me personally, I'm still doing my peppermint mochas. I never get out of Christmas mode. So thank you, Starbucks, for doing that for me all year long. Free plug there, Producer John. So thank you to all of you for continuing to download, continue to listen, and support the podcast. We remain in the top 10% worldwide for all podcasts. So that is a total blessing, and thank you all for that. And I want to tell you, we've got somebody new in second place. So we're still downloaded in 44 countries around the world, 35 different podcast platforms, including Apple, Spotify, and many, many others. The U.S. remains in first place with 94 some odd percent, and in second place now is Sweden. So thank you to our friends in Sweden for all the downloads and all the shares. In Canada, you're now in third place. So Canada, start sharing some more with your friends. And we love all you guys. So thank you for that. India, Brazil, and Germany are close behind, making a strong showing as well. And as well as our friends in South Africa. So thank you all. Also want to say hello to our friends in the UK, Australia, and Singapore. So please continue to download, continue to share, and subscribe, and leave us reviews. So folks, I know I say it every episode, but reviews are so important for us. They really help us get further and further out into the interwebs, as they say. So whether it's on Apple, Spotify, or even through our website, please leave us reviews, especially 5-star reviews, if you love what we're doing. Also, if you love what we're doing on the podcast, you can buy us a cup of coffee. So if you go on our website, you'll see a little yellow coffee cup in the bottom left-hand corner. You can click on that and you can buy us a cup of coffee for essentially doing a good job. It's like leaving us a tip. So you can buy us 1 cup, 3 cups, 5 cups, or as many cups as you'd like. And we would really appreciate that. And it really helps us toward our endeavors on the podcast. So thank you to those of you that have and those of you that will. Don't forget, we also have a YouTube channel. So you can, if you like the videos versus the audio, I'm getting more comfortable, Producer John, with seeing myself on TV. I'm doing my best. It's not easy, folks, watching yourself on TV. But I know a lot of you like that. And our subscribership has actually increased quite a bit over the last few months. So thank you again for that. You can check us out on our YouTube channel at YouTube at American Railroading Podcast. Again, it's YouTube at American Railroading Podcast, or on our website at AmericanRailroading.net, and then just click on the videos tab. Also, be sure to check out our online store. So our online store has been live for some time now. I'm really excited about it. Turned out amazing. There's lots of good things to choose from. And with it being fall now, you can check out the American Railroading hoodies and knit caps and baseball caps and all kinds of stuff, pullovers, long sleeve t-shirts. So it's perfect for this time of year. And also Christmas is not that far away anymore. So you can check that out as well for Christmas and everything else that's coming up this year. So you can check us out again at AmericanRailroading.net, and then click on the store tab and shop to your heart's desire. And one of the things that we really like you to consider is buying some challenge coins. So we have created our own challenge coins with some friends in Dallas, Texas. And those challenge coins are meant to represent and recognize our veterans in the railroad industry. And also a portion of the sales this year is going to go to our friends at Boots for Troops. And we'll talk a little bit about them here in just a moment. So thank you again for shopping at our store, and please consider purchasing some challenge coins and helping us out in our support of Boots for Troops. We're continuing to accept podcast sponsorships, and we've only got 1 gold sponsorship level left and several silver sponsorships. So if you're interested in becoming a sponsor of the podcast and jumping on board, please reach out to us today at marketing@AmericanRailroading.net. Again, that's marketing@AmericanRailroading.net. And we're excited to say that we have our platinum sponsor on board. They've been on board for quite some time now this year, and they've been a great supporter of ours and our troops as well. And that is the Alden Company. Founded in 1904, Alden has been an industry leader, charting a steady course in the manufacturing and distribution of a wide variety of railroad safety and track repair tools and more. The Alden website boasts over 800 catalog items to choose from, with categories including track maintenance and repair, derailers and railers, signs and lights, wheel chocks and stops, rail cars and locomotives, and even truck docks. Alden provides outstanding customer service with a wide variety of solutions, and when you call them, you will always get a real person to talk to, not an automated service. While based in the Chicagoland area, the Alden name is known internationally, and with over 120 years in the rail industry, they're a company you can count on. Please reach out to our friends at Alden today at 847-623-8800 or e-rail@aldenco.com. You can also review all of their products and resources on their website at www.aldenco.com. Alden, keeping things on track since 1904. So stay tuned to the end of the episode today where we'll be announcing the winner, U.S. Armed Forces veteran winner of the 2024 Honor Heroes gift package, thanks to our friends at Boots for Troops here in Tomball, Texas. Actually, literally right down the street from us here at the studio. So please stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We'll be announcing the winner at the end of our episode today. Today's going to be a part of our fun Rail Excursions series, and I'm really looking forward to this one. We'll be talking about a favorite place of mine to visit when living in Illinois. I grew up in Illinois, as many of you know, and this is definitely one of my favorites. It's the Illinois Railway Museum, and I'm sure many of you that live in the Midwest are familiar with them. So our guest for today to talk about the Illinois Railway Museum is Nigel Bennett. Nigel is the treasurer for the Illinois Railway Museum in Union, Illinois. He was born and raised in England, and Nigel has been a fan of railroading since childhood, where he enjoyed the hobby of train spotting and watching the intensive railway operations. Through his teenage years, steam was the most common locomotive power source on British railways. In his early teens, Nigel enjoyed spending days at Bristol Temple Meads Station, which then had 15 active platforms and departures commonly every minute during daytime hours. Organized trips from his school often included tours of motive power depots. At the larger of these, it was not uncommon to find 100 or more steam locomotives. That's pretty cool. Although railways were always a hobby for Nigel, he had a 40-year career in accounting and computer systems, primarily in the oil industry with Mobil and later BP. Nigel worked in the U.S. for 3 years in New York and in the 1980s with Mobil, and moved to Chicago permanently in 1999 with BP. When Nigel retired in 2012, he was able to fulfill his dream of working with locomotives by joining the Illinois Railway Museum, assisting with his financial expertise, where he serves today as treasurer on a volunteer basis. And with that, I say welcome, Nigel, to the American Railroading Podcast.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Don.
My pleasure, and I'm glad you could join us. So tell us a little bit about growing up with steam locomotives in England. I'm getting Harry Potter flashbacks, by the way, when I think of this.
Harry Potter is very relevant to the area where I grew up. The locomotive they used, named Hogwarts Hall in the movie, is very much a representative of the largest class of mixed traffic locomotives that was everywhere when I was in my younger years. The whole class was the mainstay of both fast freight and intermediate passenger trains on the Great Western, which developed them. And you can imagine with things like that all around you.
So what got you interested in railways in the first place, particularly steam locomotives?
Although they were very much part of the scenery, they, I can't say what really got me involved in them. They were everywhere. They're impressive beasts, even as part of the environment. And I guess just being near them, train spotting was a big thing in the UK in those years, and I just rolled into it.
And I believe you were a fireman, not a firefighter, as I'm learning, a fireman for a bit at a Railway Preservation Society. Is that correct? And what can you tell us about that experience?
I think in those days, every every little boy wanted to be an engine driver or work on an engine, and the preservation movement was becoming active in my youth. The earliest preserved lines in the UK started with narrow gauge ones, the Talyllyn and then the Festiniog in North Wales. I got to the Festiniog as part of a school party on a school trip. I don't think I pleased the guy who was running it, in that I was actually far more interested in the couple of days we were working on the Festiniog, even shoveling rotting wood out of the floor of the works. Was in some ways better than hill walking, which was his favourite, as the rest of the trip. So after that introduction, I started making my own way back there. And by the time I was 16 or 17, I realised I, above all, wanted to get onto the locomotives, and had qualified to fire, which was the way in for a volunteer. Much easier in those days than it is now. But I fired on the Festiniog for over 20 years. I only stopped when I came over to for 3 years with Mobil to New York. So firing was very much in the blood.
And what is a fireman? It's not a firefighter.
No, basically fireman in the UK was simply the term for the second man on the steam locomotive crew, who was responsible for maintaining the fire, the water level, and obviously assisting, watching for signals. It was the way into training for driver, noting driver, not engineer. So that was the fireman. I was trying to keep the fire going, not put it out.
That's right. That's very important, to keep the locomotive going, for sure. Yeah. And so once you moved here to the U.S., I'm assuming you rode the train to work from time to time, more than likely, at one place or another, either New York or Chicago. So I'm curious, what was your experience like riding passenger rail in the U.S. compared to passenger rail in British railways? Was there much of a difference?
The period in New York, I lived in Connecticut. In some ways, in many ways, it wasn't that different, because for some long time when I was living in London, I'd ridden the Southern Electric into London. I rode the Metro North into Grand Central. I got there just after the modernisation. Our president at the IRM actually worked on that area in the New Haven slightly before I was riding it, and I gather had I gone there a couple of years earlier, it would have been very different, in that I understand that the service was pretty rickety before the re-equipment and that came in with Metro North. It didn't seem that different, aside from the fact that everything was so spacious and had so much surplus capacity. I always remember, when you looked at the Southern Electric during the rush hour, they were running trains up, often no more than double track, as fast as you could run them, or as frequently as you could run them. I always remember my amazement when they wanted to do some maintenance work over a couple of weeks near our station at Old Greenwich, and they had so much spare capacity that they could just pull in a string of flat cars and extend the platform out to the two middle tracks and operate that way for a couple of weeks. That would be inconceivable in the London area. But otherwise, there was a lot of similarity.
Well, and I'm curious, again, going back to Harry Potter, because I'm a huge fan, is there really a platform 9 3/4?
Nope. Afraid not.
Because I was going to try to find it if there was.
Well, I think the trick is that you could look for it for a long time.
That's right. That's part of the fun, I suppose. So how did you learn about the Illinois Railway Museum in the first place?
I think I picked it up on the web when I was first assigned to Chicago and looking for things to do at the weekend. The initial assignment to Chicago, on a number of occasions, I spent the weekend here, I should say, and so was looking for things to do. And given the long-standing interest in railway preservation, it was a natural. I looked it up, came out and started talking to people.
And did you volunteer at that time as well while you were still working for Mobil or BP?
Very little immediately, because the period working on assignment and zipping back and forth was difficult to set up something like that. But by the end of 99, beginning of 2000, by the time I got the family over, yes, I got in there pretty quickly. I'd got to know the curator of the steam department and slotted in there fairly easily. It was interesting that in many ways you could get so much more deeply involved, because the Festiniog is a quite significant operating railway with a significant permanent staff. You could not operate without quite a number of permanent employees in the workshop area. The IRM, the great majority of the work has to be done by volunteers. So I got to do a lot of things I'd never thought of doing before.
I bet.
Fascinating.
And then once you did retire, how excited were you to be able to fully immerse yourself into, I would guess, your dream, right, of being around locomotives and railcars every day?
Excited. It wasn't quite as simple as that. Just about the time I retired, it became apparent that the museum had a significant accounting problem. The system that they were using was just about in a state of collapse, and the then treasurer had more of a banking background and was finding it near impossible to implement the replacement, which had been my focus for the previous 20 years with Mobil and BP. So I volunteered in that area. For some strange reason, was accepted with open arms, and spent probably the next 12, 15 months doing much what I'd been doing before I retired for the museum. And if I was lucky, having the weekends to volunteer as I had been doing before. So it wasn't quite as clear-cut as that.
Well, it still led to amazing things, right? And things that you enjoy. Yeah. So that's the wonderful part. Well, I'd like to take a moment and just recognize our gold sponsor, EnviroServe. EnviroServe is America's premier provider of comprehensive, reliable, effective, and eco-friendly environmental solutions for the rail industry. Their rail services include mobile railcar cleaning, flaring, interior blasting and transloading, removal and replacement of tank car service equipment, and leak testing, complete HAZ and non-HAZ waste handling, management, remediation, and disposal services, 24/7 emergency spill response, and more. To learn more, please visit their website at www.enviroserve.com. So, Nigel, let's jump into the Illinois Railway Museum itself and its 100-acre campus, which I didn't realize it was that big, but it is enormous. Of course, being there, you feel how enormous it is, but 100 acres, gosh, that's huge. So, first of all, having grown up in the Chicagoland area, I absolutely love the Illinois Railway Museum. I'm a little bit biased, but I think our audience will love it as well. I believe the museum was, and correct me if I'm wrong, was founded in 1953, but the railroad history on the site goes back further than that. So, what can you tell us about the beginnings of the Illinois Railway Museum?
Illinois Railway Museum, as you say, was founded in 1953, not at the location it now is, but in some property provided by a supporter on a temporary basis in North Chicago. The original name was the Illinois Electric Railway Museum, and its close association with electric railways is the reason for the name railway rather than railroad. It was really built initially around one piece of equipment, the Indiana Railway number 65, which was a fairly unique, relatively late built piece of interurban equipment, high speed, lightweight, viewed as considerable interest in the early in the 40s and 50s, and it was the determination to save that that really crystallized the formation of the Illinois Electric Railway Museum. From there on, the scope broadened, more equipment was gathered. Based upon that, the name was changed simply to the Illinois Railway Museum, and it became very obvious that it would outgrow the property that had been made available to it on a temporary basis in North Chicago. So the current site in Union, Illinois, was identified as the result of a search and evaluation that I think looked at approximately 4 possible locations in northern Illinois. This was judged as the best. It has its pluses and minuses. It's a reasonable way out of Chicago, which was a matter of decision in some cases, in that at that point the land out there was cheap enough to be workable. Unfortunately, it's a bit close to the level of the floodplain, which it proves occasionally. That we have to live with. And it has quite a lot of railroad history significance in its own right. There are actually 2 lines running parallel on the north side of the site. The line that we own for 5 miles is the track bed of the old Elgin and Belvedere interurban line. And just beyond that, what is now the Union Pacific line was the Chicago Northwestern, and originally was the track bed of the Galena and Chicago Union Railway. That may have been railroad. That actually has been there since 1852. It was the first railroad built west out of Chicago. I had attended to call it the Chicago and Galena Railroad. I now realize, as part of some of the education presentations I've done, that it was the Galena and Chicago, because in the 1840s, when it was chartered, Galena was much the more significant city. because obviously Illinois was developed from the west, from the Mississippi, and Galena was a developed city at the time when Chicago was timber buildings against the lake. So the site was identified, and the museum moved its equipment out to Union in 1864 and has developed there ever since. It supports our presentation as a museum in motion, in that we like to keep a small and representative sample of the equipment available for service and providing rides to the visiting public. And the presence of the 5 Mile Line is very much a part of that. So I guess that's a potted history.
Yeah, and it's in everything you described, and we're going to get into each facet of that as we go on through the episode as well. But you described it very, very well. And Galena, for those that don't know, is a beautiful city to visit if you get a chance. It is near the Mississippi. I believe it's the home of President Ulysses S. Grant, and it's very much of a touristy area and a bit of a romantic area as well. So if you got someone special, take them out to Galena around Valentine's Day. You'll thank me later. So the mission statement of Illinois Railway Museum is, you just mentioned education. So to educate the public as to our nation's railroad and railway history by collecting, preserving, and restoring rolling stock, artifacts, structures, and related transportation equipment for display to the public, exhibiting and operating restored rolling stock and equipment on a demonstration rail line, as you just mentioned. Collecting, preserving, and maintaining a reference library of publications, technical information, and other materials regarding railroads, railways, and related forms of transportation for research and other purposes. So I'd like to take and go through this mission statement step by step and just kind of go through some of the things that y'all do out there, because I was not familiar with the education aspect of what y'all do out there. So in what ways does IRM provide education opportunities to folks?
That's a very interesting question, which is evolving rapidly and is an area of focus in recent years. I think the mission statement, which dates back a while as it was written, possibly indicate what we are trying to develop from, in that, read closely, it does contain the sort of assumption that simply by displaying the collection, it is educational, which is true to a point, but particularly as time goes on, and I think if we are honest, the railroad industry and railroad activities are a lot less obvious and a lot less an obvious part of life for much of the population. There's developed a perception that the display it and it will be educational may not be really a very appropriate single approach for the 21st century. In a lot of ways, amongst other things, you potentially need to use the equipment you have more proactively to put railroading history and practice into a perspective for people whose exposure to railroads maybe no more than that damn thing that runs behind the barriers and holds the traffic up for 15 minutes every so often. So we are trying to develop much more into the areas of more positive general education on railroads for the visiting public. So we've tried to set up more displays which are positively placing the equipment in a perspective and giving a clearer understanding of how they were used, as many are no longer familiar. We are developing and trying to involve with schools on STEM and STEAM format programs to place the perspective on the technical aspects, the practical aspects of railroading. Much of this is really on a group or approach basis. We are trying to develop more relationships with school districts and the like colleges on programs that we can provide or assist them in providing. And strangely, we are beginning to see something of a niche in industry-related training, because we've been approached at times by organizations in the railroad equipment or services area who are finding that the mainstream railroads are, for safety reasons, very reluctant to have people on their site familiarizing themselves with railway operations, far less be able to provide, say, locomotives and sample equipment that you can use and learn about the practicality of coupling, switching, things like this. So we've done one or two, and are always open to discussing more. What we can do, if you want to do that sort of thing, we can potentially provide equipment and supervision to assist in that. So those are examples.
And you have libraries as well, the Pullman Library, the Strayhorn Memorial Library. Could you take a moment and just tell us about each one at a high level and what you all provide? Yeah,
the Pullman Library is very specific but very powerful in that at a couple of points we have had donated extensive drawing collections from the Pullman Company and subsequently from Bombardier, who took them over. And that is effectively a closed library to which we can grant access under fairly specific circumstances for researchers, and which we can make available copy drawings for modelers and those looking for example, rebuilding older Pullman equipment. So it's really a drawing library, very much a resource. The Strayhorn Library is much broader. It is really our general library. It is the repository of books, slides, small railroad memorabilia, which has been donated over the years. It is not freely open to the public. It is access is available by prior arrangement. One of the big options under consideration at the moment is whether the museum can afford and fund to develop a dedicated building to the Strayhorn on site, where it would become more generally available to visitors. At the moment, it's located in an old library building in Marengo, which does have the benefit of being a relatively good home for paper documents, but is not really possible to make accessible to on a wide scale. So the discussion is ongoing at the moment. The hope is that in a year or two we will be able to develop a purpose-built building on site for it, where it will be more accessible. But it does contain a vast collection of general books, certain specific collections, and huge collections of slides. So there is a dedicated team spending a lot of effort in cataloguing it and making it available and traceable.
Well, there's a lot of neat history about Pullman in the Chicago area as well. So I believe Pullman, the factory was there in Chicago, if I remember correctly. And there's a Pullman neighborhood that they built their own homes for the employees, stores, all of that. So that's some neat history to dive into when folks are visiting as well.
There is the Pullman Historic District and the trust, which is in the process of developing it. We work fairly closely with them. There are considerations on whether we could exchange or swap equipment with them, because obviously we have a collection of Pullman cars, some of them restored. They are looking at the possibility of having some sample cars in their historic district presentations. It becomes more complete.
That's awesome. I can't wait for that. I'd love to see it. And so moving on to the exhibits now, they are amazing, and y'all have a lot of them. The place, like I said, is 100 acres, and there's exhibits everywhere. And there's the model railroad exhibit. There's a freight train exhibit. Just for some examples here, there's a post office gallery, the Milwaukee Road Museum, barns 1 through 9, full of all kinds of rail cars, full-size rail cars and locomotives. The Hoffman Bus Garage, because we spoke earlier about the different types of transportation that are related to rail, and the Chicago Northwestern Historical Society Archives, and more. Do you have a favorite exhibit of those?
Me, probably, obviously, barn 9, where we have the large steam exhibits. That I'm constantly fascinated by the differences between American steam and British steam, and some of the steam locomotives we have over here are awesome in their size. Sadly, some of the largest ones we only acquired when they were substantially degraded, but it is difficult to imagine looking at something like the Norfolk and Western 2050 in operation. Sadly, it is far too heavily eroded to ever consider that. But the sheer thought of that monster under power is amazing.
Well, and if you're familiar with the Big Boy steam locomotive at all, it is actually making its trip through the Houston area.
We are in contact with Ed and the 4014 team. When it last came through, I went down there and saw it in Chicago, and it is awesome.
Yeah, so I'm going to go see it here when it comes into Houston and Spring, Texas here the first week of October. So to my friends that love steam locomotives like you do, please check out the schedule for the Big Boy. It may be coming to an area near you, but it's definitely coming through Houston. I'm excited to see it. How many exhibits approximately are there on site?
There are equipment exhibits. Then there are all sorts of other things like signaling.
So all different shapes and sizes, probably thousands of them.
One of the things we would always have to say is that we would currently say that there are, I think the best count was 508 pieces of equipment. One thing we would always say to anyone coming is that you should not believe that all of those are in the state of something like 1630 or the Zephyr. 508 pieces of equipment have been acquired and brought to the site. We have succeeded in getting many of them undercover. Unfortunately, a significant number are not even undercover. but far less than that in anything like restored condition. Quite a substantial number are basically as they arrived. If one was brutally honest, you would have to say, will some of them ever be restored? Looking at the time that it takes to bring a piece of equipment that comes into the site to a point where it is at least looks good, is in many cases man years of work. We have a bunch of opportunity, but I would not suggest to anyone that you can see 508 pieces of equipment in displayable condition. And actually, much of the storage, for permit reasons, is not publicly accessible, except by prior arrangement. We have a number of buildings on the southern part of the site, which are really covered storage buildings. We can arrange to take small parties around those by prior arrangement, but we are not allowed for permit reasons to open to the public. So the ones that you list, barns 1 through 9, with a couple of exceptions, sorry, I don't think there is a barn 1, but the barns up to 9 are on the public campus and freely open, generally. The ones numbered above that, and they currently go up to 14. We've just approved 15. Those are restricted access, so they're not freely open, only by arrangement.
Well, that is enormous. The enormity of, I don't think people understand the enormity of the site until they go to visit, so I really encourage them to do that. And in addition to the exhibits, let's get to the fun stuff now. The exhibits are great, but you can ride trains while you're there. And I believe that folks get unlimited train rides while they're there. Is that correct?
Generally, yes. The only exceptions are on special ticket events, Bunny, Thomas, and Happy Holiday. The reason for a special ticket event is that something is so constrained that we have to restrict access to top by time. So in the case of Days Out with Thomas, it's capacity on the train. Same with Happy Holiday. Bunny, it's not actually the train. It's how many people we can get to see the bunny in an hour. So
which is important.
That's the, yeah, I mean, it's clearly a kids' event. One of the key things you look for on these events is to keep it a good experience. And if you've got people queuing up too much with little kids, that's not going to work.
For sure.
So the interesting thing is that the other one you mentioned, the Vintage Transport Extravaganza. Oh,
and we'll dive into that more in just a moment with all the events.
Right.
So when riding the exhibits, riding the trains, I should say, and seeing all the exhibits, people tend to get hungry, I would guess. And now, if I remember correctly, there was a diner on site. Is that still available to folks?
Yes, there is a diner. It's basically a buffet style. The intent is very much as you say to provide refreshments when you're wandering around. So it's standard pickup food, burgers, pizza, that sort of thing. It's not flashy, but it's effective at providing refreshments to the visiting public.
Well, I remember the burgers, and they were pretty darn good. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah, absolutely. And it's an old-fashioned diner, by the way. So it's something that makes you feel like you step back into the 50s or so, or 60s. So I really enjoyed that as well.
We have in hand to be able to make that much more so, in that attached to the diner building is a diner of a type whose name I should know, the stainless steel 30s style, which we have been working for some years to get fully restored, and that will then become something of a feature and extension to the diner.
Which will be amazing, and I can't wait to see that. So
Yeah.
we spoke about events briefly a moment ago. So there's numerous ones, which you've mentioned a few, and some of them are seasonal, such as, let's see, some have already taken place. You mentioned the bunny trolley hop for Easter, being able to see the bunny, and which includes an Easter egg hunt, which is great. There's a day out with Thomas, which you mentioned, Thomas the Train, in July, and there's the vintage transport extravaganza, which takes place in my birthday month of August. So my dad and I would go, and we would really enjoy that. And it is enormous, by the way. So those of you that like car shows and vintage automobiles, that is definitely something you can check out, and I would highly recommend that for auto enthusiasts. So can you tell us a bit about the extravaganza, because it is an enormous event?
Yes, that is an event of a type that we would dearly like to develop more of, in that unlike Bunny, Thomas and Happy Holiday, it is not a special ticket event. It is what we dearly want to develop more of, which is features on the site during normal admissions that can greatly increase the numbers visiting, but are not restricted in a way that we have to time tickets or anything like that. It is boosting attendance during our normal operating and a normal operating day. And vintage is hugely successful because of its format, that the car displays are very much set up, I should say, by the car clubs themselves, with one in particular leading the coordination. By its nature, it can make use of our, as you've mentioned, spacious campus, and it allows people in large numbers to wander around the site and enjoy the attraction. So there is really very little limit on how many people can attend and still not feel overcrowded. You know, with a campus of our size, you can readily accommodate 2,500, 3,000 people in a day without feeling particularly crowded. And we can expand the capacity of the trains to provide a service that will accommodate those. Big thing about particularly the mainline trains is, at the end of the day, you can just stick another couple of cars on. And Lord knows we've got a lot of those.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's neat. I was going to say, too, is you don't have to walk the whole 100 acres to see the cars, because the way that it's done, and I think it's the neatest thing, is they segment the automobile displays by era or manufacturer, or, you know, whether it's a classic or a hot rod. And so there's categories, and you can jump on a train on your property and take it to different stops to see the type of cars and trucks and whatever you want to see. I thought that was the coolest thing. So instead of having to walk everywhere, you jump on a, you know, like you said, something from, I don't know, the 1950s, a train from the 50s that might be passenger rail, or a steam locomotive or what have you. You can experience all different trains and go to all the different areas without having to walk everywhere. And I just think that's the coolest thing for a day out. Now, you have a bunch more events coming up yet this year. So you've got the museum showcase weekend coming up, bus day, or, well, I believe, unless it had already happened.
Showcase was a week or two back.
Oh, shoot, we missed it already. Okay, so that's another event that people can enjoy. We've got the pumpkin train ride, which I'm guessing is around Halloween. Happy Holiday, which you've mentioned a few times, which is really neat. And then the steam department, the steam department benefit at the San Filippo estate is coming up, which sounds amazing. And you being into steam and loving steam, I'm sure you can tell us a little bit about that. So tell us a little bit, if you can, about the benefit event coming up.
Okay. Before the benefit, I would highlight one other thing which is coming up shortly, is as part of an opening day with a feature, our Steam into Fall event, which we've taken to holding a celebratory last day steam is going to operate in the season, and that is coming up shortly. Yes, the steam benefits has become very popular. It's something of a serendipitous arrangement that the San Filippo estate and the San Filippo Foundation, a separate organization in Barrington that was developed by an extremely enthusiastic collector, Jasper Sanfilippo, who was the, I believe, founder of Fisher Nuts. Well, he was fascinated by steam engines, particularly industrial ones, and above all, mechanical music equipment. He started with a very beautiful but otherwise normal house, maybe mansion probably, in the Barrington area, Hills area, and extended it substantially to contain his collection of mechanical music equipment, and built an outbuilding, I should say, which was to contain his equipment of industrial steam engines and larger mechanical music equipment like complete carousels and fairground organs. So even at that point, it is some display. The way in which IRM became associated with it is that one of the things that developed in the music equipment collection was a theatre organ. And I learned a lot from talking to him and others about this. A theatre organ is almost infinitely expandable. You can attach all sorts of different sets of pipes to it to come up with all sorts of sound effects. And there's nothing to stop you getting pipe sets from other organs and expanding yours. So he built what I think is now reputedly the largest and most complex theatre organ in existence. It has been remarkable. And it so happened that one of our key steam department volunteers, his brother, is a very accomplished organist and one of the few qualified by Jasper when he was alive to play the San Filippo organ. So in that way, we developed the connection and started running the benefit at San Filippo. That's how it started, and that's how it's continued. Sadly, Jasper is no longer with us. His son now owns and has taken over the mansion and is developing his own collection, which focuses on perfume bottles. So,
which you probably don't see on steam locomotives very often.
No, you don't. It is a fascinating afternoon to enjoy. The San Filippo estate is never publicly open. It hosts events like these, so you get in there only as part of an event such as this, and they do roll out the carpet for the steam benefit event. We normally get to see not only the music equipment display in the house, which is amazing. There are fascinating machines which I never knew existed. Machine to automatically play a violin. I have never conceived until I saw it.
Yeah, and I've only ever seen pictures of the mansion. I've never been there myself, so I highly recommend that if folks have the opportunity to attend the benefit, to please do so, because it's not only helping you all in your museum, but it's also just an amazing experience. I can only imagine. Now,
and the unique feature that we are able to put on is that we normally run a silent movie, if possible, with a railway theme of some sort, and end up as the organ was intended, to provide a live accompaniment to a silent film.
That's really neat. Hopefully a film with a train. That would be great.
That's what we try to do.
I knew it.
Yes.
You can always do Harry Potter if that fails. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's less suitable as it has a soundtrack.
That's true. That's true. So we talked about volunteers earlier, and I am involved in several volunteer opportunities here as well in the Houston area. So I know how important it is to have people that are dedicated and willing to give of their time. And gosh, it's so generous of people to be willing to do that. How can someone volunteer if they're interested in volunteering at the Illinois Railway Museum?
Come and talk to us. Send us an email. Arguably, if you're looking at volunteering, probably coming to see us is about the best way. I find it difficult to think of volunteering somewhere without at least having had a look at it. But certainly, if that's difficult and you say come from a distance for periods, then drop us an email. We will put you in touch with Rick Marzek, who is our volunteer coordinator, and he is the one who will explain what the options for volunteering are. We are more and more open to all areas. There has been a tendency over the years to be particularly focused on those who can beat metal, but we are increasingly conscious that we have needs in the administrative, customs service, docenting areas, focusing heavily on being able to offer opportunities to people who aren't necessarily totally focused on picking up a hammer or a wrench and getting up to their elbows in grease, which has been the most common encouragement in the past. Doesn't work well with the libraries either.
That's true. And speaking of all of that and everything you've had to do there as a volunteer yourself, what do you enjoy most about your time with the IRM?
Oh, the time I enjoyed far the most was when I was coordinating the overhaul of 1630. As I said, you got much more hands-on over here than it would ever have been possible to be at the Festiniog. You had to learn a lot, and the long-time curator became sick at a critical point, and I ended up doing a great deal of the coordination and project planning of the rebuild of 1630. That was very much relying on advice and self-training and coordinating the exercise and trying to ensure that we were lining up people and, if necessary, outside services to get the thing getting back running as promptly as possible, because it had been out of service for a lot longer than we'd hoped, and it was very obvious that steam was a big potential draw which the museum needed. So, yes, I think my happiest times at IRM were very much when I was deeply involved in the 1630 overhaul.
And for those that don't know, the 1630 is a steam locomotive that you were working on, yeah.
St. Louis and San Francisco decapod. Yeah, originally built for Russia. And that, for those of you who know Russian railways, that means that it is distinctly unusual in some respects, in that the Russian gauge is 5 foot, not 4 foot 8.5. And this is one of a last batch that Baldwin did not ship to Russia due to the small matter of the Russian Revolution. They had this funny feeling they might not get paid. So they were faced with what to do with 200 decapod locomotives for a 5 foot gauge, which isn't very common. The simplest way of making them usable for American railroads was to replace the trucks on the tender, the leading trucks, as it was fairly simple to produce 4 foot 8.5 inch gauge trucks and wheels. But if those of you who know a steam locomotive, you can't just push the wheels in 2 inches each side, because the whole cylinder assembly is designed to line up with the face of the wheels. So they came up with the clever method of shrinking oversized tires, which are 2 inches wider than the normal ones, onto the existing wheel centers. So basically, if you look at 1630 to this day, she has unusually large lip perhaps if you look at the driving wheels from the rear, because basically it spans the extra 2 inches to bring the back of the wheel and the flanges to a 4 foot 8.5 inch gauge as opposed to a 5-inch gauge. So there's plenty of weight that you can have a projection behind the back of the normal position on the wheel. But you can see it to this day.
That's amazing.
Sorry for the diversion.
Yeah, no, that's great information, and it's nothing I would have ever guessed. So that's great. So believe it or not, Nigel, we're near the end of our episode already. An hour has flown by, and we can talk for hours about all this stuff. And that's why I really want everybody to get out there,
Enjoyed it.
Yeah, and see it for themselves. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience before we go today?
You know, if you're ever in our area, do come and see us. We're at Union, which is primarily down 90, about towards Rockford, and we're always glad to see you. Look us up at www.irm.org. Give me a call if you're coming.
For sure. And they can buy their tickets through the website as well?
Absolutely.
And can they make donations? Do you guys need donations and things of that nature?
Oh, yes, we need donations.
Good. And they can do that through the website also?
They can indeed, yes.
Very good. Well, Nigel, it's been a true pleasure having you on today. And like I said, we talked for hours about the IRM, and I'm a big fan, as you can tell. So I'm looking forward to visiting again when I'm back in town, visiting family. And
forward to seeing you.
Yeah, I'll be sure to stop by and say hello, and we'll grab a burger over at the diner and hang out for a little bit. But would you like to join us again for a future episode?
If you'll have me, most certainly so.
Very good. Well, we'd love to have you again. So, Nigel, thank you so much for joining us today on the American Railroading Podcast.
And thank you for inviting me.
And with that, I'd like to share my 2 cents. So railroading is fun, right? And everybody loves trains. Who doesn't love trains? And there's so much history, and being around trains brings out the little kid in us. I think it brings out the little kid in all of us, unless you're waiting in traffic, of course, and then it brings out something else. But generally, no matter how old we are, we love being around trains, and especially this is why museums like the Illinois Railway Museum are so important, not only to preserve our history, but to educate as well, and to allow us to take a step back in time for a bit and be a kid again. So, if only for a day. Please get out and support your local railway museums like the Illinois Railway Museum, and research the ones around you as well. There's several here in Texas. I'm sure they're all over the place, ones you're probably not even aware of. But please get out and support your local railway museums every chance you get. And that's my 2 cents. And it's time now to draw our winner for the 2nd annual Honor Our Heroes Gift Package Award with our friends at Boots for Troops. And with that, I'd like to welcome the co-founder, president, and CEO of Boots for Troops, and my personal friend, Jimmy Rogers. I love you, man.
I love you too, Don.
So for those of you that didn't listen to the episode 4, I think of season 1, we went through all of that about how important it is for you as the head of Boots for Troops and all the volunteers. We just talked to Nigel Bennett with the Illinois Railway Museum and all the volunteers that they have. And you have a ton as well, and how important volunteers are. So first, let's get into the history of Boots for Troops just a little bit. For those that are joining us for the first time or hadn't heard about Boots for Troops before, can you give us just a high level of Boots for Troops and kind of where you started and what it all we do?
Yeah, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version because it's really a really cool story, but I know I don't have hours and hours, but 2015 I was serving in the Navy. I was on the USS Theodore Roosevelt, which is an aircraft carrier overseas in the Persian Gulf, and we were getting care packages from groups back in the States, and you know, it's always a nice thing to do to send our troops care packages, but what I realized is that the packages that we were getting didn't really have the things that we wanted, or it wasn't like customized to us. It was a lot of overstock items, things that people were throwing away. And I thought, man, we need to send our troops the best stuff, the best jerky, the best razors, the best quality, products that we have, that we make in America. So traveling the Mediterranean Sea, transitioning the Persian Gulf, one evening decided to write a GoFundMe page and launch this organization that I was going to call Boots for Troops. And we were going to send the world's greatest care packages. And it started with an ideal. Came home from that deployment. My wife and I started actually putting these care packages together. And we've originally started sending them to my friends that I served with, and then the program kind of grew and grew and grew. We built a website where service members could go on the website and request a package. And, fast forward to today, we've sent over 5,000 of these custom care packages, and each package is built to the service member. We get to know their favorite sports teams, their favorite snacks, what they're missing from home. Do they need headphones? Do they need a watch? And we build a box that's custom to one person. So we've found out that it's more impactful when they receive that. They're like, man, somebody made this and put this box together just for me. So it's making a huge impact on their morale. We've had testimonials come back saying, hey, you saved my life with this box. It's crazy to think that, but it's true. They open this box and they feel the love, and they say somebody cares and I'm here, and it can change their whole mindset. So
Morale.
We've had additional programs since then, and the organization's all about boosting the morale and supporting active duty troops and some veterans.
Yeah, and then what we're going to talk about here today in just a moment is the Honor Heroes gift package, which is very similar because they're going to send us a list of what they want, like we did with Joe Malik from CSX last year, and so it was kind of you guys let me pack the care package myself, and Joe will tell you, for those of you that are watching or listening, Joe will tell you that package was packed to the hilt with some great stuff, and he got it just in time for Christmas as well. So
it's like Christmas. It's like I tell people all the time, you get a care package like in March overseas, but it's like Christmas in March. If you get a Boots for Troops care package, it really is like opening a Christmas gift.
It makes a big difference to the morale for sure.
Absolutely.
And so what are some of the other services that Boots for Troops provides as well?
Well, we have another program that's called our Travel Assistance Program. So it's a big program coming up, especially during the holidays, where we fly E4 and below service members home to their hometowns. If they haven't been home for the holidays in more than 2 years, and they can submit a request on our website, and based on funding and eligibility, we fly them back to be with mom, dad, brother, sister. We all like to wake up Christmas morning and eat warm baked cookies by our mom, or be home to eat that, that homemade turkey and dressing. These service members want to do the same thing, and sometimes they can't afford the flights, or they just need a little bit of support to help get them there and get them back. So we do travel assistance for that. We do a service dog every year. We raise money to fund a service dog that's fully trained, goes through an 18-month certification process, and then we pair that service dog with a veteran who has some sort of disability or PTSD or something like that. So we're on like our 5th dog in 5 years. And then we also do what's called Honor Our Heroes. We help veterans all around the country with disaster relief efforts. If the city gets hit by a storm, or a veteran gets in a tough situation in between jobs, needs help paying rent or something like that. We do it on a case-by-case basis, but we're here to help, man. We're here to help the military families and active duty troops and our veterans who have served in the past.
And even scholarship programs for spouses, right?
Yep. Scholarship program, that's our newest program. We give out 2 to 4 scholarships every year, trying to grow that program. These are military spouse scholarships. So we believe that the spouse serves when on active duty with service members. So they're making the same sacrifices, and we want to get that military family set up for success. So when they transition out of active duty back into civilian life, everybody's got an education or some sort of training, so they're set themselves up better for financially for the civilian world, which we know out here it can be tough. Tough world,
especially today.
That program's been super successful in its early young stages, and I truly believe in education still. I know there's a lot of discussion about how important education still is, and I think that education or learning another skill set or going to college is super beneficial.
Yeah, without a doubt. And in order to do these programs, there's a lot of fundraising that happens, and events are a big part of that fundraising. Yep. So there's the concert in the country coming up here November 8th and 9th. Yep. You got the kickoff party on Friday, November 8th, and the big event on November 9th. But I'm sure you'd like for folks to come out for both nights. So can you tell us a little bit about Concert in the Country this year and who's playing? Yeah,
Concert in the Country. We're doing it Veterans Day weekend. This is the first time we've ever done it Veterans Day weekend, which is really cool because it kind of aligns with what we're doing. But yeah, we got Pam Tillis coming Friday, November 8th to kick it off. We're calling that Female Friday. Doesn't mean the males can't come. The guys can still come, but we're having an all-female lineup. We're going to celebrate women in music. And then Saturday, we got the headliner, Montgomery Gentry.
One of my favorites.
Tyler Farr, Corey Morrow, Jake Bush, Mike Donnell, It's gonna be an awesome show. It's our 9th year doing it. It's a pasture party. It's a love fest. Everybody's there. You can feel it you can feel the energy when you walk in, that everybody's there, not just to see the music, but to raise money for the troops and be patriotic and show love for our country. So that's really, really, truly what it's about.
Yeah, and it's at a beautiful horse farm for those that haven't attended before. They take all the horses, move them to the back 40, so to speak, and it's gorgeous. And there's a flyover, which last year included, I think it was World War II era jets as well as biplanes, right? Yep. So it's a really neat event. There's food trucks. There's stuff for kids to do. There's, I think, a cornhole tournament on Friday.
Cornhole tournament. There's a 33-team barbecue cook-off this year. We've already sold out every lot for the barbecue cook-off. So that's a huge attraction. It's family friendly, so you can bring the kids. If you're coming in from out of town, fly in for this thing. It really has become somewhat of a destination event, which we're very proud of. We have people that come in from Florida, New York, places all over the country, and they actually attend this event. And it's super patriotic, and if you love your country, this is an event you want to be at. No place better to be than Boots for Troops.
I agree.
Concentrating the country, Veterans Day weekend.
I agree, and it's like a big family hanging out, which I think is really neat. So now I want to thank you once again for the second year sponsoring this Honor Heroes gift package for a veteran in the railroad industry. So thank you so much for that.
For sure.
And you ready to pull some names?
Yeah.
Or pull a name? All right. So I'm using my
oh my gosh,
Chicago Bears. You notice it's upside down, because that's how we ended up in the Texans game last weekend or weekend before, which...
Don and I went to the Texans and Bears game, and he came out on the wrong end of
Hey, it was a close game, but I will say this, the Texans fans were very kind.
Yeah.
Everybody just tailgated and had a good time. There was none of the back and forth. So, I keep saying moving to Houston was one of the best things I've ever done. I really enjoy just the culture in the Houston area, but it was a lot of fun. Everybody was giving each other a competitive hard time, but nothing more than that.
Nothing serious.
No, but it was still a lot of fun to hang out with, and we represented Boots for Troops that day as well. So full transparency. I think people know by now if they listened long enough, but I am a committee member with Boots for Troops for the Welcome Committee. So I just want to make sure.
You guys played better than I thought you would. We were a little nervous there in the end. You guys were kept into a one-score game.
We had the ball for the last drive. Yeah.
I was like, man, if the Bears pull this off, I'm never going to hear the end of it from Don.
I did represent. I did wear my Bears gear. So now I'm using my Bears hard hat, which I got many, many years ago at one of the shops. I can't recall which. So thank you again to those that have submitted nominees for this. We're going to do it again next year, and we want even more nominees. But it was great. And you ready to pull a name?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what we got here.
Let me mix it up a little bit here.
Yeah.
All right. Give it to you, driver.
Oh, you can read it.
All right. Crystal Blazus. Did I say that right? Blazus?
I think so, yeah. And actually, Crystal was nominated by last year's winner.
Oh, awesome. She's Director of Safety Investigations for Amtrak.
Yeah.
U.S. Navy F3 Fire Controlman. Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
I'm aware of what a fire controlman is.
So tell me, because I was not familiar. I was not familiar with that job. So what was she doing?
Like a fire controlman?
Yeah.
They're like firefighters on
an
ship,
aircraft carrier or something?
Everybody's fire trained in the Navy, like basic fire training, but fire controlmen are obviously get the advanced training. I mean, they're like having firefighters on your ship. So a fire breaks out, they call the fire controlman.
Yeah.
And to put it out or,
remediate
respond to
the
the smoke or the fire happening, but very important job because we know a fire can spread and become very dangerous on a ship very quickly.
Well, thank you, Crystal, for your service to our country. Thank you for all you're doing in the railroad industry as well. We're going to tell people all about you. I'm going to do a LinkedIn post and put all this information, all this wonderful stuff that Joe bragged on you about. I'm going to put it all out there for everyone to see. So congratulations on winning the 2024 Honor Our Heroes gift package from Boots for Troops and the American Railroading Podcast. Thank you to everyone that nominated someone, and to those that were nominated, thank you for your service as well. Maybe we can find a way to send you a little something to say thank you. But this is going to be if I can say it, badass care package. I know last year's was. This one's going to be the same, and we'll probably get that out in the next couple of months. Make sure she gets it in time for Christmas. And so, Krista, we'll be contacting you, seeing what you like, what you would like to see in your care package. And so next year, folks, please continue to nominate. I think everybody really enjoys being a part of this as well. And Boots Boots for Troops, I know, is always looking to do more. So, folks, if you want to participate in care packages, or and even if they need travel assistance or something like that, they can reach out to you through the website. Is it bootsfortroops.org? I forget. Boots4troops.org. That's what I thought. And Jimmy, thank you so much. I know you've got a busy schedule.
Oh, absolutely.
But thank you for making time for us today.
Absolutely.
And for all that you and Lindsay and Miss Chris and everybody else do with Boots for Troops. And you want to say anything to the volunteers that are listening?
Man, I want to say thank you to you, Don, because Don, you've been such a supporter of the organization too, and even just recently in the past couple of weeks, we've picked up some nice sponsorships on your behalf. But yes, thank you to you. Thank you to all the, you know how I feel about our volunteers and our committee members. Can never tell them enough how much I love them, appreciate them. I know they don't believe me sometimes, but it's true. I really do love them. I'd do anything in the world for them. They're like family to me. So we know it takes a team and an army to make these things happen, and they're super important part of that.
Yeah, I agree. And then Concert in the Country, how can people buy tickets?
Concertinthecountry.org. Really simple website. You can get all the information there. Tickets, the lineup, information about the barbecue cook-off, cornhole tournament, the raffle, everything that you need to know about the event, concertinthecountry.org. Very good. And raffle tickets as well? Yep, raffle tickets at concertinthecountry.org as well. Very good. Thank you, Jimmy. Appreciate it. Love you, brother. Love you too, man. And I want to again thank our platinum sponsor, the Alden Company. Founded in 1904, Alden has been an industry leader, charting a steady course in the manufacturing and distribution of a wide variety of railroad safety and track repair tools and more. The Alden website boasts over 800 catalog items to choose from, with categories including track maintenance and repair, derailers and railers, signs and lights, wheel chocks and stops, rail cars and locomotives, and even truck docks. Alden provides outstanding customer service with a wide variety of solutions, and when you call them, you will always get a real person to talk to, not an automated service. While based in the Chicagoland area, the Alden name is known internationally, and with over 120 years in the rail industry, they're a company you can count on. Please reach out to our friends at Alden today at 847-623-8800 or e-rail@aldenco.com. You can also review all of their products and resources on their website at www.aldenco.com. Alden, keeping things on track since 1904. And of course, I'd like to recognize our anchor sponsor, which is the Revolution Rail Group. So again, we're a consulting and brokering firm in the railcar industry. So if you're looking to buy, sell, lease, or sublease railcars, we can help you with that. Also, if you're looking to needing consulting, whether it's process flow analysis, market analysis, merger and acquisition analysis, we can help you with that as well. You can reach out to us today at 844-455-3434 or info@therevolutionrailgroup.com. You can also check out our full suite of services at our website at therevolutionrailgroup.com. So our next episode is coming soon, so please stay tuned. You're going to love it. I know you are. And with that, I say God bless. Make it a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us on the American Railroading Podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard, please subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. And if you have a topic you'd like us to cover on a future episode or want to support or sponsor the show, please visit our website at AmericanRailroading.net.